Welcome to McFly Angler. I've never been a guide, but I still enjoy teaching people how to catch more fish. So join me in this video where I show you how I tie this fly.
For a hook, a straight shank, dry fly hook should be used, just like this barbless hook from Risen. Place the hook securely in your vise. A fine thread really helps not to bulk up this fly. I like this ultra fine 16-knot thread from Vivus, and I'm using the light tan color. Start your thread halfway down the shank of the hook. Snip or snap off the excess thread and then bring your thread down to the bend of the hook. For a tail you can use a number of materials, but I really like wood duck. Now strip off all the fuzzy fibers as there is really no use for them. Then select about a half dozen of the barred fibers and align the tips. And then strip them off the feather so the tips stay aligned. Measure out the tail to about the length of the hook shank and then tie them down at that measurement so they are on top of the hook shank. I find a pinch wrap works really well here. Make a few more wraps back all the way towards the bend of the hook. Cut off the waist end of the fibers at a little past the halfway point. You will also want a shuck, and I find that shiny Antron dubbing works great for this. I'm using the golden stone color here because I like it, but something a little more yellow is more common for this fly. Pull apart in your fingers multiple times to align the fibers like so. Tie in the fibers right on top of the fly with a couple tight pinch wraps. While still holding onto the fibers, come in with your scissors and cut the dubbing off square, sticking out just about at the bend of the hook. Now come forward with your thread, ensuring that the dubbing stays on top of the hook shank with each wrap. Cut off the remaining dubbing so it's a little past the midpoint of the hook. Then bring your thread back to just before the tail. Now we need a turkey biot. I like this yellowish tan color, but something darker could work as well. Pluck off one biot. Notice here how the biot has a transparent and opaque side. Tie in just the tip of the biot onto your fly so the transparent side is facing up, and then bring your thread up to just past the halfway point. For durability, I like painting on some head cement. You could use super glue, but normal head cement should be sufficient enough. You must work quickly here though, as the cement will dry. When you paint on the cement, grab the end of the biot with some hackle pliers and then proceed to start ribbing the abdomen with the biot. As you can see, if you space this correctly, you will get a pronounced rib effect on the fly. Now for some dry fly dubbing, and I like this UV2 fine and dry. Last Chance Cripples are actually a Cripple imitation of a PMD, so naturally you will want to use the PMD dubbing. But I find that I like it a little bit lighter, and this color is too light and bright, so I'm mixing them today. Loosely dub on the dubbing noodle onto your thread and wrap the dubbing ball in front of the abdomen like so. Now I like to pick out the dubbing ball if it's wrapped too tightly, and then just pinch off extra long fibers like so. The wing of this fly is created using 3 CDC feathers in a light dun or white color. These feathers have a natural curve to them, so align the tips and the curve of all 3 feathers together like so. Then stroke all the fibers forward and position just the tip sticking out between your fingers like so. Measure out about a half a hook shank length for the wing and then tie that down with 2 tight pinch wraps and ensure they stay right on top of the hook. Wrap back to the dubbing ball and then while still holding on to the feathers, clip them off short like so. Now wrap forward just shy of the hook eye to create a space. Also pull the feathers upward and make a couple wraps under them to lift up slightly. Now bring your thread back to the back of the CDC. Now we need some dun or grizzly hackle. Personally, I like to downsize my hackle slightly for this fly, so this is a size 14 hook, and I'm actually going to use a size 16 hackle. Now this particular feather is really pretty, with almost a Cree coloration to it. Anyway, to prepare this feather, yank off some feathers to where the stem becomes a little more pliable. While looking at the feather from the shiny side up, you'll want to rip off more on the right side than the left. Well, I guess it would depend on if you're looking at the feather upside down or not. Just make sure the feather looks like this. Alright, so clip off the stem with a little remaining like so. Then tie this in with a couple X-wraps to hold it perpendicular to the hook like so. Now bend the stem forward and trim it off to an appropriate length. Then wrap over it and smooth out this bare section of thread. Then proceed to hackle your fly up to the CDC wing. 4 to 5 wraps should be sufficient. To capture the feather, I like making a wrap in front, then behind the feather, and then repeat that one more time. Now you can come in and trim off the feather tightly with just the tip of your scissors. Now with your fingers, pull the wing up and back, simultaneously pulling the hackle back and out of the way as well. Now to whip finish this fly. It's really not that easy with these soft CDC feathers over the hook eye. But for me this was even more difficult because the camera was in my way and I couldn't put my hands where I wanted them to properly grab it how I needed. So here is an example of what not to do while whip finishing this fly. Also, I forgot to cement the head. I like to paint on cement and then whip finish that cement into the fly. Something happened here though, and I broke off the thread while doing this. I left it in because I feel like most of these tutorial videos show only perfect flies, and in reality, even professional tyers make mistakes sometimes. I personally would still fish with this fly, but don't worry folks, when I'm able to start selling flies, these would not go in the sale pile. Anyway, here is one with the better whip finish. So there we have it, the last Chance Cripple. The thing about this fly, and really any cripple pattern, is that it seems to really stir up the trout. The vast majority of bugs, especially the PMD, tend to emerge incorrectly, and therefore will have a bum wing, or maybe cannot fully release from their casing, or would it be called a chrysalis? Oh, I don't know, I'm not a scientist. But I do know that this is a fairly common phenomenon. Trout know this and will many times focus on the crippled bugs because it makes an easy meal that cannot fly away from them. So this fly really does mimic a crippled pale morning dun struggling to emerge. Today, as always, I use some hooks made by Risen Fly. They make some awesome hooks at a great price, along with other fly fishing gear. So go check them out at www.risenfly.com. Best of all, I have negotiated a discount for all my subscribers. So type in McFly at checkout for additional 15% off of everything in their shop. Well, thanks for watching. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.